Welcome to the Drip Marketing Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about categories, filters, your e-commerce website, and what we're doing to improve our search engine optimization and qualified traffic. Now, as all of us SEOs know, we want qualified traffic to come onto our website. And before I begin this podcast, of course, I'm speaking with our software engineer, Vahid here, and he will be telling us how we're actually doing this on one of our e-commerce projects and campaigns. Now, you got to remember that as SEOs, we want qualified traffic. And to do that, we run keyword research. And with that keyword research, we might find a lot of different ideas. And one example could be, and we looked at Home Depot with Vahid. One example could be when somebody looks for an LG dishwasher that's a stainless steel dishwasher, and they might be looking, or they might also be looking for a white or a black dishwasher. In most cases, with WooCommerce or Magento or Drupal, these platforms, these systems, these content management systems come out of the box blocking these filters or categories. And the reason for that is pretty legitimate, and that's because the variations with filters would create hundreds of thousands of different URLs, and you definitely don't want that indexed in Google. There are several ways to do this. With WordPress, you disallow the URL string, and that just tells Google not to crawl the tens of thousands of variations, like black this and green that. But is that the right approach? If you set up the e-commerce system properly with your categories, you will most likely increase your traffic, qualified traffic from Google by a significant amount. In our case, we're going after a brand, a model, and a keyword, okay? Previously on our WordPress website, that was blocked. And hacking WordPress in WooCommerce wasn't really possible, and we would have to hack it. And if you hack it, if WooCommerce updates, that was going to be a problem. We would constantly be at odds with that system. And that's why we went with Salier, and which is delayed a little bit, but we're going to be publishing it soon. And that will actually help us solve this problem. Now, again, we got to keep in mind that these variations are searched at significant rates. So it could be a black t-shirt, a brand, let's say Guess Black t-shirts, and I mentioned this before. When you have that item, that key phrase searched, and you don't index it in your system, it's not going to show up. That means you have to show up for something else for your primary category page and none of your major filters. So get your SEOs on this. They have to do their keyword research, and you have to find a solution to index these categories. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask, Vahid, and he's going to explain how that's done on WordPress, and he's also going to explain how that's done on Salier, which is our famous headless CMS that we're going to be using. And go ahead, Vahid.
Sure.
Where do we start? Where do we start with this project? How are we doing it on our e-commerce website?
Okay, cool. And to begin with, thanks for having me here again. I was listening to what he just said, and it reminds me of the time when you actually told me about it the first time when we were trying to build the website again using Salier. It's kind of interesting when you said that, WordPress, Magento, and all the other CMSs that are out there, they do it by default. I think that's a default behavior that a lot of websites or even e-commerce sites have right now, is to use queries, have those filters as your query params, create as many filters as you could. And so I think if you do not think it in the SEO terms, that's how it has always been done. But it was really good when you showed me that, there's a different way to do it. So it was an interesting problem when we first started to solve it, we were still on WordPress. And as you know, like how much I like WordPress, I reached out to the other dev that we were working with to see if it can be done, because as you know, everything in WordPress is a data structure to support blog. And in order to have your filters as your path parameters, you have to hack it, as you already mentioned. And that was not something that's easy. Even if it's doable, I'm not saying it's not doable. It's doable, but it would change the structure of how the websites work on WordPress. And that is not something that is good for your other parameters that you're looking for. For example, the speed, or even if the page is optimized or not, because it has to go through many layers to even make it possible to make it run. And then we decided to drop the idea of actually doing it in WordPress. It was easier or much doable using the system that we are using right now with Sailor. So for any website to work, there are two components. One is how you get the data and how you present the data. This is not a problem of getting the data. This is more of a problem of presenting the data. So I would say it's not more of a Sailor problem that we had to solve. It was more of the front-end framework that we are using kind of problem that we had to solve. Because, and to be open, we are using Next.js as our front-end framework, and I'll tell you how we actually went about solving this problem. It was quite easy for us to use whatever we had right now with Sailor to get the data, because all we had to do is apply this filter and get the data from Sailor. So we didn't have to change anything, because that's the default behavior. You just apply filters and get the data. What we had to do in the front end was, I think we went over Home Depot to see how they are doing it. And what we identified from that website was they use the category name / and they use the unique IDs of everything that you select. And that's how they optimize each of those categories. So it could be a product ID, it could be a category ID, but we are using product name. So for example, the way it works right now is that we have a category, we have the first product in that category, we have something to divide it with the second product that we are using, and then we can append as many IDs or names as we want, and we should be able to filter the products accordingly. What this enables is for you to, just go and SEO those specific categories as well. For example, black t-shirt. Black is something that you could optimize, and for SEO, a t-shirt is something that you could optimize for SEO as well, which was not the case when you had the query params, because as you said, you just ignore it when it comes to the SEO. So we can talk more about that and how we solved it programmatically if you want. But yeah, if you could give me more information on why you think it's more beneficial SEO-wise, and what are the origins of it, that would be great.
What happens here is nobody just searches for t-shirt. Okay, mm-hmm. That's just not something. Maybe I've never done that before. Okay, I don't know if you've ever searched for headphones. Right?
I have not.
You would never search for headphones. Let's do it together.
Sure.
How would you? Let's say you're looking for Bose headphones. They've got to have Bluetooth, right? And you want a white Bose headphone. You don't want the typical black headphone. Mm-hmm. What will you search for?
That's an interesting question. I'd first of all look up different headphones that are out there, and my favorite one is Bose QC35. So if I want to buy that, I would just go to Google Bose QC35 and see what the first 10 links are, click on that, and then see if they have, just go to the product page, open the product, see if they have a white color. I would never search for white Bose QC35.
So you wouldn't do that because you would go to the website itself.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe that was a bad example because Bose, and Bose is a big brand.
Yeah.
But you know what? Let's go back to the dishwasher. Because the dishwasher, you might not know exactly what you want with your dishwasher, but you do know that you want maybe a Samsung dishwasher or an LG dishwasher, and you want it to be stainless steel.
Yeah.
Looking on Home Depot is a little bit difficult. You got to go through 50 steps. I'm over exaggerating, but it might be something like you have to go in the kitchen section, home, then kitchen, then appliances, then dishwasher, then brand, then stainless steel.
You lost me already.
That's how it works,
Yeah.
right? You got to go through the categories from the homepage. Bose is much easier.
Yeah.
Headphones, wireless, Q30, QC35.
Yeah.
And you pick your headphones and you're good to go. But when you're buying a dishwasher or a fridge on Home Depot, and they do this properly, it's just not a lot of people, it's not entertainment.
Right.
And headphones are pretty cool. You put them on your head and it's a fashion statement almost. And also it's an extension of your head. So people take it a little bit more seriously. But with fridges, I don't think you're going to be looking for fridges every day.
No.
Right? Or dishwashers every day. So in that case, what would you do? Would you go through Home Depot or would you literally look for what you're looking for on Google?
Yeah, I mean, I would first go on Google and see like where I could buy it. And obviously, if there's a link to Home Depot, it would be a direct link to the product page, right? I wouldn't have to go through like sub-levels to reach there.
Ask you another question. When you're going to search for this product, would you go to Lowe's, go to Home Depot, go to Best Buy, have all the tabs open?
No.
Or would you look for LG stainless steel, I don't know how cubic feet or whatever it is, stainless steel dishwasher, and then individually open those tabs or click on the ads?
I would individually open the ads or the tabs that are presented to me. I would not like go to one specific site and go to different sub pages.
So that makes sense. In that case, now you can see how powerful it can be to have these individual categories and filters set to index, right? Home Depot will never block Google from indexing the brand, which you have to click on, LG and Samsung or whatever, Whirlpool, GE, General Electric, and they'll never block that category. That's category one. Mm-hmm. Category two is, dishwasher, because you gotta go through the system. Dishwasher, then the brand, and I might be wrong if you guys are looking at it, right now. I might be wrong, but they drill it down to a T. And finally, the filter system on the left will be probably pricing, how big the dishwashers are, stainless steel color, and I think maybe by reviews, right? So the SEOs at Home Depot would have to determine what they want indexed in Google. I don't think anyone's going to be looking at 4-star LG $500 stainless steel dishwashers.
No, that'd be insane.
But I would look for LG stainless steel dishwashers.
Right.
And Lowe's will come up, Best Buy will come up, Home Depot will come up, and I'm going to individually look at all these pages. That's how powerful this is. It's either it doesn't show up or somebody has to drill down 5 different categories on Home Depot. And they have to do that on every single website.
Okay.
How long would that take versus doing it on Google and quickly, snap of the finger, you have access to 10 results or more with ads.
Yeah.
So that's why this is so powerful. As an SEO, the Home Depot team or our team, we would have to map out what's the most popular terms, right? Yeah, sure, somebody would look for a brand and a model, and and the product will come up. But some people will not do that. Some people will put LG dishwashers because they don't know. They really don't know. I don't know. I mean, and you know what? I am looking for a fridge, but I wouldn't know what kind of fridge.
Right.
I'd have to narrow it down, and I know what brand I'm looking for, right? But I would do that on Google first and see what's up. It would be the best way for me to search. The SEO team maps this out. They put it together in a Google Sheet. They determine what's most important, and it would be wise to test it on a category first if you know it hasn't been done before, because mistakes do happen and you sometimes get index bloat, and you do not want that.
Right.
That is a nightmare. That would be a big mistake. Or if you're well versed and you have access to a team like us, the development team will come to me and say, Puya, we will only index this, and there's no way all the filters will get indexed, because we'll make sure that doesn't happen through through text file. It's the one way to make sure all these filters don't show up. But it can get very powerful. And if you can pinpoint what categories filters are searched the most, then you can mold your website around that, and your categories and your filters around what the user intent is. And the intent is always, if it's a shopping experience, nobody wants to go through 50 websites individually and drill through,
Correct.
several categories. But that's the way we would do it. But I would present this information to you like I did before. I would say, I need this. And then you go ahead and develop a system for that.
Yeah, thanks for giving that example. What I get from that is not only that you're improving the SEO, you're also improving the user experience that people have, because no one would want to go through 5 subtypes and go to the product that they want. If you can search and go to the page where you exactly want to go, it helps save a lot of time for users as well. So that's a great example. About the bloating, that's another good point that you're talking about, that we shouldn't be creating a lot of bloat that then we have to avoid using robots.txt or any other mechanism. One good thing with the system that we are using is it does not create unnecessary pages that you would not even know about. What used to happen when we used WordPress or anything, because we had no control on that. But using Next.js or any other JavaScript framework, the only advantage you get is that you can control all that. If you do not want one file path to become something indexable, it doesn't even need to exist, right? And you have complete control on what's there and also what to avoid from getting indexed on Google. I would say that's another advantage of it. What would be one thing that you could think of for why we shouldn't do it the way that we are doing it right now?
As long as the SEO team, the marketing team, understands the intent of the visitors they're trying to target, the demographic they're trying to target for each category, then this would be simple. But if they don't understand that and they inadvertently want to target every filter, then your nightmare starts all over again.
Yeah.
It becomes just like WordPress. If you want to, let's say somebody makes a mistake and says, the filters are all important, let's index them all. No, that's going to cause a disaster. You're going to have hundreds of thousands of pages that is either going to get crawled or not going to get crawled. This has actually happened with Home Depot before. They've accidentally indexed filters they shouldn't have, and they've also de-indexed filters they should have. But this is a learning game for everybody, right? And we're going to do the same. What would be a problem? Google comes onto your website, starts crawling. They don't have an unlimited budget. They're not going to give resources to you, not unlimited resources. So you have to make sure you capture their attention for the right pages.
Okay.
So if you understand the intent, you just ensure that those filters and categories are indexed and you're good to go. If you don't and you guess, you're going to have a problem. On the visitor side, who has to come onto your website if it's not indexed in Google, or on the Google side, Google coming onto your website, crawling your website, and looking at filters that are irrelevant.
Correct.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a really good point too. Yeah, it gives you a lot of power, but you should know where and how much to use it, because as you said, Google won't have a lot of crawling budget for you. Even if they do, there should be some kind of limit, right? Like I won't go and crawl every page that there is because we are trying to index everything. The other good thing about the way that we are doing it is we are doing a server-side render of all the pages that we have with these specific categories. So whatever Google sees is what our server already renders to them. So it's not a dynamic page where you would just go in and you would see something in brackets that is yet to load. Whatever Google sees is the final page that the users would also see. And that doesn't hurt any of your SEO chances using the framework that we are using. So that's another good thing as well that I wanted to bring up, that even if you do it the way that we are doing it, it is possible to do it on the server, to render it on the server and then serve it to Google.
Okay, so I want to let everybody know that this is a new project for us and there is a huge learning curve. So what are some challenges you're facing with this right now? Let's say challenges with this task alone, not the big project itself. Is there a challenge you're facing, or is it already done and you kind of knew what to do from the beginning?
No, there was a challenge that we were trying to figure out for some time. It is not as complicated as we think it was right now, but what was happening is when you have one filter that you want to index, there is a chance that you want multiple filters to be selected at the same time, right? So what happens is it would be bad if your link was, oh, I need to go to this category, first filter / second filter / third filter. And what would happen in that case is you would not know what kind of products the user wants. And if you unselect a filter, you do not know how to change your URL structure as well. It kind of makes it ugly and complicated to control. And the way that we tackled that was using just one filter, the very first filter, as the primary product structure. And then if a user selects multiple filters, what we did was we used a unique identifier that separates these two IDs, and we just appended the URL link. And as we did that, we had a system to identify if something changed, the URL changed or not. And based on that, you just get the products from failure and show it. So that way, if I'll give you an example, there were two products, product A and B. You select product A, you would see everything that is under that product. And now you select product B, you would see product A and product B on the page. But now if you remove product A, which was the primary ID, what happens, right? It should break. But that was a challenge that we had to fix, was to just remove the URL structure and make product B as a primary identifier, so you can also be able to index it. And this is all server rendered, so nothing is happening in the front end. So even if Google tries to do that automatically, they would not know if something has been taken care of using filters the way that we are doing it. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. I'll try to simplify it for myself.
Okay.
It's as if I look for the LG dishwasher or stainless steel dishwasher and it comes up. Mm-hmm. Then I say, okay, there are other brands in the filter section. I'm going to select Samsung as well, right? Now you've got two brands.
Yeah.
That's not supposed to show up. Right now, if you do that, that's exactly what shouldn't be indexed.
Right.
That's what you're explaining.
Yeah, and then you would not even know what should be the primary ID now. Should it be LG or should it be Samsung? And if you take LG out, Samsung becomes the primary ID, and you have to make sure that that's the page that Google is seeing too, because that should also be indexed. So yeah, your example is correct.
This is a bigger project for us, and we're going to be launching it pretty soon, I hope. And when we do, we're not tracking how well it's going to perform, but I have a feeling it's going to do fairly well.
I hope so too.
So because at the moment, all these filters are actually set to not index because of WooCommerce and WordPress. Not bashing them, again, it is possible to do this on WordPress and WooCommerce. It's just a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
But tell me this, my last question to you. If WooCommerce updates and WordPress updates, does that mean these changes just get scrapped? Probably.
Depends on the developer too, right? Like how they have implemented it.
Yeah.
If they go and change the base files of WordPress or WooCommerce, and if you apply an update, yeah, the changes would go away. But if they create a plugin that interacts with this base code and then shows you all the data, there is a way to handle it. But there are other questions that come in when you do that is, oh, what if they update the base files do not support the structure that you have built anymore? And in that case, your website is broken, and then you have to go in and change according to what they have done. So it kind of becomes a dependency on how it is structured right now. Again, it's doable, and I'm sure they do not change their base files so much.
eCommerce and
Yeah.
WordPress.
Yeah, for how many times you update the WordPress or WooCommerce base files or plugins,
Very often.
you always have to keep checking if it's breaking your code as well or not.
And as developers know and as SEOs know, that is another disaster.
It's a nightmare, yeah.
It's a freaking nightmare. And I never want to run into that, but I want this change to be done. And this will never happen on Sailor. This will not be a problem. Once you create this structure, all we have to worry about is the user intent and the setup and how it looks and the experience of the person coming onto these web pages and categories. And that is what we're trying to solve with categorization optimization and our filter optimization. And I wanted to let everybody know this is what we're working on. It's a little bit advanced. If you have access to developers like yourself, and if we do have other developers who are looking at this as well, then I would say you're in a lucky basket. And also just knowing this, just knowing the power you have over your competition, if you can do this, is, I would say, significant enough for you to want to try, and test this idea. But that's all the questions I have. Thank you for answering all the technical details of this and how it's done. And I cannot wait to share the success of this one element, this one campaign we're running on our website.
Yeah, thank you for letting me know that something like this is possible too. So I've learned something new as well.
That's the beauty of this. SEOs, software developers, front-end developers, back-end developers, if they talk to each other, I think they'll learn a lot from each other. I'm learning a lot from you. And I know you're learning a lot from me because I'm showing you how Home Depot is doing it, how Lowe's is doing it, how these big websites are doing it, how they're dominating search.
I sure am, especially for SEO. I've not known as much as I know after working with you. So thank you.
Well, that's it, folks. Thank you for listening in. Until next time, catch you on the next podcast. Take care, everybody.